Hello, welcome to Sacred Assumptions. My name is Alaric. I have a bachelor's degree in geology.
I'm Ben, and I have a bachelor's degree in apologetics.
So this is the second part of this session, the next episode. Today is May 27th, so all information in this discussion is up to what we have to this date, as more information could come out, and there'll be different interpretations of what we have at this moment. So, what? Disclaimers, yeah.
Let's just throw it out there to see who yells at us.
Yeah. So, the topic at hand I was going for was a recent Trump settlement with the U.S. government that happened like about a week ago. That was Trump suing the government for $10 billion for IRS leaks of his tax documents.
Right.
For $10 billion.
Yeah, I read the summaries before coming here. I realized I hadn't looked at it yet.
But before it got to court, there was a settlement before it got to court. And that one was $1.776 billion dollars in a fund for people accused by the Democrat Party falsely, or as they say, to be reimbursed by weaponization.
The January 6th situation.
This was been claimed to be part of, but for it with other weird things in it, as well as who judges, how long it lasts, and another part of the agreement is that the Trump business family and cohorts can't be prosecuted or investigated in their businesses without the IRS.
I did see that. Yeah, I think that was, it sounded like, according to Trump, I think I saw a short video clip of him informing some sort of news person that he didn't have, not that he was like trying to distance himself from that. He just thought that the whole thing was good news. And then I think they asked him about that. He's like, yeah. He's like, I actually wasn't a part of that. I don't know anything. I didn't have anything to do with that, but it sounds good, type of thing. It sounds like his attorney general was the one who actually set up that whole deal of, okay, you don't have to fork out all this money, but we'll make a settlement for this, and that you have the agreement that you don't go after him and his family for any other questionable tax situations. I think it's something along those lines. I don't think it was quite that, but it had to do with taxes. And I think part of it had to do with that they were tired of, I guess, I'm constantly trying to go after finding out how he handles his taxes. It almost sounds like it's kind of like how people kept on going after Obama for his birth certificate. It's a similar situation in those regards to constantly trying to go after Trump's tax return. I think taxes in general. But along those lines, they kept on going after that. Like people kept going after Obama with his birth certificate. It's like, were you really born here, type of thing. So that's, except I don't think anyone filed a lawsuit against Obama, whereas they did that with Trump did that with them, and so yeah, they just settled with. I guess his team settled. He made it sound like he wasn't really involved with that, which I guess is assuming that's true because of other things he's dealing with. It could be that he's not involved with that, but he had this new guy who's taking care of all that stuff, I guess.
But for it to have in the agreement that you're trying to add this in when you have somebody practically suing himself.
That's what they were saying. Is it because he's the president?
One is that he's the president, it's under his government,
Mm-hmm.
and all these other parts in the government would be like, how is private citizen Trump suing President Trump?
Private citizen Trump. What do you mean?
So
Is there a distinction in that with what's going on?
that
I
would
okay,
be,
keep
well,
going.
it would be, for us, we are considered private citizens.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
Then people in office have like, oh, you have the senator office, you are in the aspect of the office of Senate, Congress, Supreme Court, President.
Mm-hmm.
For it. It's sort of in the way that a congressman can sue himself for saying the laws weren't put in my way, that I can sue myself so that the government will put the law or will reward me.
What's your point with that, though? I guess.
The part is that how can it be a legal settlement if
If he's suing himself.
if he's suing himself? How is that? It's creating some sort of law and interaction.
I mean, if you want to go that route, I mean, whenever the IRS or anything else goes after the president, is that like him going after himself?
So for it, the IRS, I believe, has permission to it in the law and the Constitution.
Right. Okay, but it's still like it's going after himself by that logic. That's why I'm
I mean, it could go for that, but it's also in the art for it, you're asking for yourself in a court of law to determine, like, oh, is this legal or not? Let me try to go with the picture that you said of the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
So if the IRS goes after the president, you're saying that the IRS cannot IRS cannot do an audit of him in his time of office.
Mm-hmm.
So with that means that means other government agencies cannot do the same thing. And so what happens is nothing gets done, and the president becomes more of a king because the branches underneath of him can't look at him.
Right.
So, but in the aspect of the government suing himself, is that he's going to the branch of the judicial system.
Mm-hmm.
So what you have there is a person that's supposed to be a non-binding arbiter. And a person has to look right there to be like, hey, is this right or wrong? And you're having for yourself, you're having to argue against yourself.
Right. The joke of the employer is going to argue with himself about having time off.
Yeah.
So that's more of the funny bit. So.
Yeah.
Argue with myself in the mirror to get time off.
Yeah.
So
for one of it, you can make in the way of it that makes it so the IRS cannot audit him, and as well as that slush fund, which is a slush fund that by most regulations should be made by the Senate, the Congress.
Okay.
Because it's allocated funds to a certain golden topic that most of the time, if you're like, oh, we want to do this, they'll bring it up to the Congress to be like, can you make like part of some funding and a bill
Right.
for it. And so now you have to create.
So you're saying it gets tricky because since he's part of the government, that to do this, you do technically, in any other circumstance where you're a citizen, you're not having to deal with the Senate for this, but because he's part of the government, he should have to be, it should have to be going through the Senate to be able to allocate the money.
I would say part of it is that for the allocation of money, that should be something that goes to the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And the part for the IRS is something of corruption and trying to put it into a policy that would not happen any other way, because once you have it, if you have somebody who can't be audited,
That's okay. Him and his family.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. I saw that. I was like, that's very Biden-esque.
that was very Biden. What?
Biden-esque. How at the end he made sure that, or at least whoever it was, made sure that none of his family would get in trouble for whatever had happened.
That was like the first future pardon.
Yeah, exactly. Future part. It's like that's why I say very Biden-esque. It was like making sure they can't get in trouble for anything in the future. It's like, oh, that's ironic.
I mean, I don't like that, that pardon and thing. I'm like, it is one thing to pardon those who've already been convicted, but it will be tested, I believe, in court for that. And I don't think it's something that you can proactively do.
The future
Your pardon?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a.
Well, they're challenging that just because it was Autopen. Or at least that's their understanding of it was Autopen. So they're challenging that even though that had been done before. They're challenging to see if that should really hold up. I don't know how all that goes.
That means a lot of Trump stuff that was done in the first term for Autopen is not available.
That's possible.
I find it funny that he says it's the Autopen. He used the Autopen.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the fact right there that...
Okay, I guess the question there would be, what do you mean by him using, or whenever you're saying Autopen, in what way was it done? I think that's the distinction, but it could maybe
in
not.
his executive orders.
Yeah, I get that.
So during the first term.
Right.
So that's like how they normally would sign executive orders.
Mm-hmm.
And like bring it out for it. What Trump is doing is he's now making a show of it every time he does it to make the appearance that he's always been one to do the pen, but he's done the auto pen as well.
Okay, so what I'm referring to is when you mentioned Autopen, how is he going about doing it?
Him?
Yeah.
I would say in very much the same way that Biden was doing it.
But
You have aides.
So you're saying that he had other people. My understanding was essentially Biden was having. I could be wrong about this, but that was my understanding of it, that Biden had aides copying and pasting his signature onto different executive orders or something along those lines. And that's what they meant by, they used the Autopen was that, and part of it had to do with that he wasn't even aware that he was doing it. They were just saying he did it. And their reasoning for believing that was because I guess there was someone who had talked to him about how he had signed something and he was unaware of any of it. So
I was going to say Trump is going to be in the same boat
of being unaware of the
stuff that he's signing.
Right.
And so it becomes a hard ground right there.
Why do you say that he'd be unaware of it?
What have you seen him asking? What does his executive orders do?
Yes, I have found it interesting of how he's asking him, and I was like, oh yeah, which one's this one? I was just like, huh, okay. But I've noticed that he does that a lot with a number of things. Like he's not actually keeping up with a bunch of stuff. He is trusting everyone else around him to take care of stuff in the way that, that's how I'm picking up on it, in the way he would want it to be done, and that if there does end up being a problem, he's going to go in and see what happened. Because that seems to be happening here and there. Is that if it becomes a big enough problem, he ends up it's almost like and it's almost like someone who's, well, I guess it is that way exactly, but yeah, someone who's over something, but they're not overseeing every single thing. They will have people taking care of different stuff, and they'll trust that they know the vision that they have, and that they will accomplish the different tasks in the way that they will still get the task accomplished with the bigger vision in mind. But whenever enough stuff goes wrong or something is like becoming very controversial, then they have to step in and be like, okay, what's going on here? That seems to be somewhat like how Trump has been dealing with stuff, because there's different things that he's focused on, then there's different things that you see that his administration team tends to be focused on, and then you'll find out later that he wasn't aware of it, but he's almost like, and he'll inform you that he wasn't necessarily aware of it, but that he's pretty much backing them. And then he finds out that I think that there's a lot of controversy, or it's like it seems like something's getting at hand, and then he'll kind of not necessarily step in, but he will start talking to them more and be like, okay, so what's going on here? And then he'll tell them, I guess, give more specific words for situation. That seems to be kind of what's been going on with him. I could be wrong about that. That's the sense I've gotten with what's going on, because there's been a number of times where stuff that in the administration you would think he'd be aware of, but at least when reporters are asking him, he's like, oh, I didn't know about this. I'll have to find out in a little bit. It's like he's almost like nonchalant about it. It's like it's not that big of a deal. He just trusts people that he figures he'll find out about it in a little bit and see what's going on. And I find that fascinating.
Wouldn't that be the same thing for Biden? That he's trusting his aides to be care?
No. The difference with that has more to do with that it's not, okay, so it has more, because you could also say oblivious, but it has more to do with he's not able to, okay, so this had more to do with his dementia, is what I'm thinking of. And it had more to do with he wasn't able to make sense out of what was going on. And so they couldn't really even, so it'd be questionable if they could even explain to him what was going on. They were just like, because he was president, they were just utilizing that power. And so even if they were to bring something up, he would be unaware of situations, because he would have a hard time keeping up with anything in the cognitive sense, not in the sense of like there's so many things going on that he's having a hard time keeping track. It's just the fact that he's not mentally capable of doing it because of his cognitive state. That's the distinction I would see there.
Would you say the same thing for the cognitive of Trump in recent?
No. People have mentioned it. It's not really there, from what I can tell. And it doesn't seem like there's been anything that, at least not suggesting at all to the same degree as Biden. It seems like people are just mentioning it because it was mentioned with Biden, so they're trying to slap something off with Trump that's non-existent.
So nothing of like marks on the hands and ankles.
I've seen that. I don't know what to make of that.
And so,
besides, like they say, he's like 70 and is almost 80.
Yeah.
And so I know usually people in that age are usually bruising pretty easily depending on what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Not like that, they would say, unless you're doing a lot of testing. And there's other parts of like the part where it says there's things of like falling asleep during like press conferences.
Who's that?
Trump.
I haven't heard anything about that.
Oh, he's been falling asleep during press conferences.
What do you mean by like where is he at when he's falling asleep?
Sitting at the Oval Office.
No, but like, so he's not like interacting with anybody.
He's not interacting. He's like sitting in his chair. Somebody's talking, making an announcement.
And he's falling asleep?
Yeah.
Interesting. No, I hadn't heard about that, to be honest. I mean, now, would it concern me? No, because he's doing a lot of things. He's like constantly busy. So I wouldn't be surprised I mean, it's a
Yeah.
weird time to take a nap, but
Yeah.
but it's like catching a snooze here and there. It's yeah. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me because of how much he seems to be doing stuff that he would have to at some point sleep. It just seems like it's an inopportune time to sleep.
But for the cognitive part, have you been seeing how many times he has had to, sorry, this thing keeps wanting to connect to my
Oh.
camera, but have you seen how many times he has to go into the hospital or take cognitive tests?
No, I haven't seen that.
So it's like, ooh, like mentioning like he said like 3.0 for cognitive tests, and like within less than a year time period. And doctors would say that if you're having to take multiple cognitive tests within a year, that is definitely not a good sign if you have to take multiple cognitive tests.
Honestly, I think that can be dismissed just because of how things were with Biden. Part of the problem is that they kind of screwed up with Biden because you couldn't hide it at all with him. They would say nothing was happening, but it was obvious to everyone that stuff was happening. So for them to be claiming that he has cognitive problems because he's taking all these tests, I'm like, well, what were you doing with Biden this whole time? Not caring about that? So it just seems like, I don't really care what you say about that because he doesn't even behave like Biden did. He seems to be very lucid with even where he's at. So it seems like they're just trying to find a reason to say something about him because they don't like him.
I mean, for it could be that, or it could be that people are choosing to ignore it. People will hide it for him as well, and you haven't been seeing all of it as well.
Well, I mean, I've watched different stuff that he's done, and it's with Biden you couldn't hide it. With Trump, if they are hiding it, it's not. It's the type of thing where, like, my understanding is they were trying to hide it with Biden, and they weren't doing it. Was bad enough to where it was hard to do that. With Trump, it doesn't seem to be.
I remember one incident in Japan where he was visiting like the prime minister there, and he started to walk off in the complete opposite sort of way and not going where he's supposed to be going. He's just ignoring sort of like directions and such. And there's been times where the president is just like not walking, like he's not walking off stage. He's walking over to a corner of the stage where no one's at.
So behaving like Biden did.
Yeah, but like for it, you're not seeing it on major.
You would think you would.
You think you would, but for a part of it, there are certain news broadcasters that won't put that part up.
That doesn't make any sense. There's enough people who don't like him. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of news broadcasters that like Biden. There's not a lot of newscasters that don't like Trump.
Well, there's newscasters that do, but for other ones will go that if you show it, your broadcasting license is going to get cut, which is a new thing that had come in recently. But for it, like you won't see it like on Fox News would not have shown
Right,
that.
I could believe that they wouldn't show that. But they're like 1 out of a dozen.
I think for it was more than that, but people weren't paying attention to those news stories for it. They would cut the feed for it and then go over to different topics.
That would be hard to. I mean, aside from you saying that they've supposedly made a different like law regulation for that, it'd be hard to believe.
But you're also saying that news people don't like Trump. There's other parts where that thing still keeps wanting to, so I'll turn that completely off. It's like so there's been several ones that have been like ABC, NBC, CNN that are all making changes to appease Trump. Like taking off the Stephen Colbert show. There was another one that they tried to take off the air back in like September, but that there was a huge backlash for a comedian. It wasn't the Stephen Colbert.
Jimmy Kimmel?
Jimmy Kimmel.
Why do you say it was because of Trump?
It was literally the FCC chair going, "We don't like this," for a joke he made about Trump. That they're like tells Disney to take him off, and they took Jimmy Kimmel off for about a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was huge backlash for that, and people started canceling like Disney Plus services for it. That they had to reverse it. That Disney had to be like, well, we can't listen to this one right here. But there's been other ones of like Stephen Colbert going, hey, I've had this one thing where he said some jokes, and then they're like, oh, we're going to cancel it after this, even though it's a popular show.
I don't know how popular it is anymore. I've gotten the impression it's not that popular anymore, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
In my understanding, had more to do with they were able to get rid of him also just because, like, they're canceling the show, also partially because it just wasn't getting the ratings.
I think for it, people want to say it's the ratings, but sometimes what happens is it's not, or the ratings suddenly change after making that announcement that there's like review bombing after being like, oh, Trump didn't like it, I guess I'm going to go over there and review bomb it. That.
What does that have to do with ratings?
So people are like, oh, the ratings are down. After they mention it after Trump makes the post, which means people start review bombing like the ratings.
Okay, but then they just be reporting on what the ratings are. And maybe you're like a review bomb, but it's still all these people saying what's going on with the ratings.
But I mean, for it, in the time period, the numbers will look like it's down, but for it's up. So no, actually, I have to
turn it off too
soon. I turned it off too soon. So it's been betraying me so much by turning on this thing, like stop. And now when I need to go look it up, it's like, yay, we're going to. I've turned you off to stop this behavior.
I know that, like, you're familiar with Piers Morgan.
I've heard, Piers Morgan,
He's a British news commentator or something like that. Because he had a, I don't think it's a psychologist on, but he had this like doctor on like through like via like online video, and the guy was asking him about Trump's neural decline. What's it? His cognitive decline. Asking about that, and the guy was because he was a doctor in that field, and the guy was talking about all the issues that they were seeing with him and stuff like that, and saying that it's definitely concerning and whatnot. And then the guy, Piers Morgan, asked me, he says, "Did you ever say anything about Biden?" The guy says, "Well, we weren't really sure about that until like shortly after, I think, like close towards his end of his presidency or during his debates, and was like, well, everyone else was talking about it. And he's like, I even reported on it. And so, what were you doing with that? And he's like, it wasn't clear until then. It's like, it sounds like you were biased. So it's like the guy didn't say anything to that. He just kind of smiled and said bye.
But looking at the Stephen Colbert,
Uh-huh.
he was the highest rated
On
for late night shows. So the part where it's saying that he was like the lowest, he was.
He was the highest. So how are the other shows doing though?
So they would
I mean,
average.
granted, they probably wouldn't get rid of their best guy out of all of them.
Said like 2.6 to 2.7 million for late night show for average. Jimmy Kimmel was 2.1 to 2.2. If I just go to
How many did they? How many were watching him before Trump's or during Biden's presidency? I wonder. I wonder if more people tuned in to their thing because they were ticked off with Trump. Well, it's like, because they're going to be making fun of him, so they enjoy it. But also just one of those things that they decline until the opposition comes in. Now they have a bunch of stuff to make fun of, and therefore they have an audience again. But that's usually how that one works. Once you got material, it's good. So that wouldn't necessarily prove that he's doing bad in general. So it's not like he's doing. I have all the people watching. He's doing best out of all the people on. Is it ABC?
So for Stephen Colbert, he was going between 2.5 and 2.8.
Okay.
So during that time, his one fluctuated more, but this one, he's on the higher average.
Right. Okay.
So.
And then they decided, and so the Trump administration was trying to keep him silenced because they were getting annoyed by his mocking him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a fan of that. It's not the first time that's happened in general, but yeah, not too much of a fan of a president trying to silence someone. It's one thing if they're not doing well and they're just trying to keep them on just because they like what they have to say politically, and so they're going to allow themselves to throw money down the drain just because it feeds on their rage. But but if it's actually doing decently, then yeah, I wouldn't say it's not a great thing for him to be silencing the guy just because he doesn't like what he had to say.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure it would surprise me because Trump is very prideful.
Yeah.
So no one can deny that.
Yeah.
So.
But I think we should go back to our original discussion of the deal with the IRS. We went down on a tangent right there. Because for it, I was back to when we were talking about making the deal for it. We can go with that sort of deal for the IRS or suing yourself. Which one do you want to go down first?
Of either suing the IRS or suing yourself?
Of either the deal with we call a sweetheart deal with the IRS package in there, or the part that you are suing yourself.
We'll go with the IRS thing first, package deal.
The package deal?
Yeah.
So, I believe it's like, I have to double check if it's in the Constitution that, the president can't stop an investigation of himself.
Okay.
But it's also.
Oh, I see. Because of how they're writing this. I don't know if they're calling it a law or what. But basically, the deal they're making is that he can no longer investigate him. That's what you're referring to.
Yeah, that it's like for that one. There's one thing in the Constitution. The other one is the theory behind it is that if you have your businesses or a group of people that are tied specifically to one person, and if they are in a position of power, what happens is it becomes more of a dictator or kingship, that you can't look at the numbers. You can't question what they're doing. Because if
I
you're...
wouldn't go so far as you can't question. You can't keep them from questioning.
Ooh.
But they just can't do the investigation for their questioning.
Well, you can't even do the questioning because you can't do the investigation.
You can always ask a question.
But you can't know.
Yeah, you can't find out if what you are questioning is true or is accurate.
Accurate, or if what's really going on. Because Ford, what it could be is that he could buy 1 million acres and say that's only 500,000 acres. And so he could say the taxation is on that. But also with that sort of investigation, it also leads down different trails when you go with an IRS as like a full audit on you to see what you're doing. And if you can't have that independent agency go through it and look at it,
right?
What happens is you're having less and less people keeping one group accountable. And so if they're in charge, like if say I'm a knight under a kingship, and I think the king is spending his money unwisely, he's not doing stuff, I can't. The king would be like, you can't see my expenses. You can't have the check right there. And what happens is the king is going to be spending all his money on what he wants, and nobody can check to see what he's doing. And so that's more of a behavior of like, you can't have the investigation.
Did something fall off?
Yes, you had the little foot. Oh, I'll have to edit that part out.
So, yeah, with that, I guess the question would be, okay, so say that it is, you're talking about like if it's unconstitutional, does that make sense?
Like, there's a difference between like constitutional and the difference of what it implies is more of kingship or dictatorship.
Like if he's behaving more like a king or a dictator?
Yeah, that allows that to happen. Because you'd be like, oh, the king, you can't investigate what his sons are doing. That sounds more of like what a king would have. That you can't.
I mean, either way, I think that I'd go both ways. Either king or dictator.
Yeah.
So part of what I don't know enough. I mean, of what that, I would wonder why they would do that. Aside from the fact that the IRS knows it really screwed up and knew it was screwing up, and so they made a deal to, what do you call it? They basically settled for that for less money, but within that, because they screwed up as bad as they did, they got the administration, the attorney general got screwy, whatnot. Well, screw would be the wrong word, but it messed with the fact that, or utilized the fact that they screwed up so bad that they were putting something else in there that you probably shouldn't put in there because it's too much power for the president, basically, president and his family. But they knew they screwed up so bad that they were leveraging that to cause them to, or to get them to be able to agree to those terms of, and you can no longer investigate this. It sounds like into any part of the future. That's what you're saying, right?
Saying what?
That you can no longer investigate the tax stuff even to do future investigations, correct?
Future and previous.
Okay, right. So any tax stuff you can no longer investigate,
Yeah.
right? And that they would put that in, that they were putting that in there because the IRS screwed up enough that it would look bad enough that they would agree to that. Now, granted, the other way I would see that is, sure, you put that in there, but that's not going to stop anyone else from challenging that.
But
If that is unconstitutional, I could easily see other people in the government trying to challenge that.
I would challenge on the one of like the idea that the IRS messed up and they're trying to cover their tracks.
Well, then why else agree to it? That's why I don't understand. Or why even attempt to put that in there for the IRS to agree to? Or if he went so far as to say, okay, you can no longer investigate this stuff, like, well, no, forget that. We're just going to investigate.
Well, the IRS was not like a part of it.
So who was
the acting attorney general? So that branch, the DA. That's the one who made the deal, not
with who?
The U.S. government.
Right. They were suing the IRS.
No.
That's what you were saying.
Suing the government. They didn't sue the
IRS. Okay, I assume when you say government, you're talking about IRS because the IRS is part of the government.
No, they weren't
So
suing
what are you talking about?
Like the U.S. government itself. No.
Who was suing the U.S. government?
Trump.
Because when I looked it up, it was saying that the IRS settled.
Listen, dude.
It didn't say specifically government, just said the IRS, that they sued the IRS and the IRS settled. I was looking at it on.
Okay, so it's a IRS and the Treasury Department. So it's the Department of Justice suing the IRS.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's essentially what I had understood.
Yeah. So
the IRS decided to agree to a settlement. And you don't agree to a settlement. I wouldn't think that they would agree to a settlement especially if they included that, unless they knew they had screwed up.
Well, it could also be that they say that Trump was possibly about to pay $100 million on taxes. So it could be, even if for that the agency was trying to be in good favor or just capitulate, because there has been executive orders that the IRS and DOJ both have to serve in the president's wishes. So IRS is not, lawyers are not serving in the interest of the IRS, but for Trump.
And you're saying that's because that he put the people, because he picked the people who would be the lawyers are in charge of that division.
Yes. So the lawyers will have to ignore what the IRS wants and do what Trump wants. And that's under an executive order.
That would be problematic.
Yeah. So it's the part there that you're kind of suing yourself if you're having that the lawyers can't do their interests in for their own agency.
That part I'm still not in. You're suing yourself.
Yes.
Why do you say that?
For it, you're supposed to be the head of the government.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Department of Justice suing the IRS, which is part of your branch.
The IRS?
Yeah, that's part of under your jurisdiction.
Okay.
You're supposed to be in charge of it. And it's the one that's in charge of all the money.
Right. So did he act, because you're making a distinction between between citizen and government? That's what you call it?
The roles of Trump being President Trump and suing under private citizen.
Right. So is that how he was going about it?
I do not know. I've heard that analogy.
Got it. Okay. I see.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't. I'm not sure if I've heard of like. Well, I've heard of like presidents going after those different agencies, not suing, but going after them, which doesn't really. I mean, aside from the legal aspect, it doesn't sound like it's a whole lot different. Whenever wait until you're fighting yourself. I mean, obviously you're going to be, if not everyone agrees with you, you're going to be fighting with people. So it doesn't. So to me, it would also make sense that you would be suing within that.
But for it, part of it has to go with when you do it, you go to the judges to see if there's a conflict of interest. That's a main part.
Okay.
They were going to a judge, but they settled out before the judge could take a look at it.
Interesting.
So you bring it up, say
So the two different, you're saying it was attorneys, or so the one attorney that was suing another attorney, technically, that's how I'm understanding it. They're doing that, and because they were both on Trump's side, it's kind of like they were being buddy with it. One guy was kind of accepting the terms because they're all buddies with Trump.
Buddies of Trump, there have been ordered to do the buddies, and before, as they were making the settlements, the judge said that they had to have outside lawyers look into it, and the communications were not like actually, I think were not kind of what you would see for them making arguments.
Okay, so I would assume that maybe this is what you're talking about. I would assume that while they're working together and they're agreeing on something, that they're having to have someone else take a look at the papers to make sure that everything they're doing is square.
Yeah, and those people are saying this doesn't look right.
Okay, so that would be so it's not official yet.
No, it's become official for it.
I thought you just said that before they can do anything, that a judge told them that they have to have someone look at it.
You have somebody look at it and then report back to her what's going on in those deliberations.
Okay.
And so, for it with those deliberations, being like, oh, seems to be more of colluding than actual investigation. And so you have the court date. And before you have the court date, you can settle for it. And so before the court date, before the judge can rule on if that is what happened, it's been settled. And by definition, if something like that has been settled, the judge has barely anything that they can say.
Right.
And so all the judge can say is everything looks of this to be collusion.
Right. So Trump was suing himself to get $10 billion, and then the judge got involved.
It's always a judge has to get
yeah. The judge got involved, and so they decided to settle for just like 1.7 so on billion. But since and the whole, so I guess I don't even, now I will say I don't even understand why he sued.
So
Because I know what he sued over. It had to do with there's a guy who used to work for the IRS. I don't think he still does. I could be wrong about that.
He was a contractor for the IRS.
Okay, and he leaked. Was it a legal issue where he leaked it? Like he wasn't supposed to leak it?
He wasn't supposed to leak it. He leaked a bunch of other like billionaires and millionaires tax returns. And so they were suing for damages.
Right. Now, okay, and he used to work for the IRS, correct?
As a contractor.
Right. And so, but they weren't trying to sue him?
So
the guy who was the contractor, who leaked it?
I have to see. I don't think it was going through it because it mentioned that other millionaires and billionaires sued too because he leaked, and they got no compensation. All they've gotten was like apologies from the IRS
Okay.
or much lower settlements.
Okay. But the one distinction is because it's Trump, it's like he's suing himself.
Suing himself and the amount and all the other
Right.
candies that go into the deal.
Okay. Oh, because you're saying that they can't do any further investigation
Can't do further investigation.
on anything. Yeah.
Is it called? You probably get like a sweetheart deal at the level of Epstein.
Probably not that far, but yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Because like nothing I was saying was wording as and he was suing himself, which I'm kind of wondering if that's not really how it is. Is that just how you're viewing it, or is that like how you've heard some people describe
I've
it?
heard people say describe it that way.
Right.
Suing himself, that analogy of President Trump being sued by citizen Trump.
Right. If that analogy actually works, or if they just went with that because they liked it. Who knows? But no, I mean, in general, I wouldn't necessarily see an issue with him suing the IRS or suing even the guy who was a part of the IRS for a period of time, the contractor.
I mean, for that, I can totally see like the contractor
Right.
and such for it. But
Now, does your biggest issue have more to do with the thing that they slapped in there is they can't do further investigations? Is that your bigger issue with that?
my one is more of the slush fund and the investigation. Is like this was never about that his IRS documents were leaked.
Okay.
So you have everybody else who sues under it gets either like a couple $100,000
Right.
or they get an apology from the IRS.
That was really the deal? Was either
For that for other people.
right, but that was really the deal for them?
They didn't get that deal.
No. That they either get the money or they get an apology. That was the options.
No. So
Okay, I was like, who wouldn't take the apology if I don't fork out money?
So they will be, some of them will get compensation money wise and an apology.
I
So
got
there
you.
was always an apology.
Yeah, that makes
There was some money, but it was like 100,000s, like didn't seem to be in the millions.
right.
So Trump comes in 10 billion, you get $1.776 billion in a slush fund that is like not going to him.
Right.
So you would be like, is that really the suing for it? You would be asking, he doesn't get any money from a suing himself. He gets this deal that he can't be investigated. It's looking more and more like it was never about the tax document leak.
It was more about taking advantage of a situation.
Of the system that he's more in charge of.
So you're saying it's a way to try and get more money or a way to take advantage of a situation so that way he found a way to be able to keep them from digging in.
As well as money to pay people that is not his money.
Oh, well, I mean, he wouldn't have to pay them anyways.
But I mean, you're talking about a $1.776 billion slush fund.
Yeah.
That goes around that you can decide who it goes to.
Yeah.
It ends at your term. Like that slush fund, if it isn't paid out, like nobody else can do it. With that fund to be spread anywhere else.
Okay.
Language is that it's only for those who have been targeted by the Democrat Party in an investigation by the Democrat.
It's only what the funds.
The fund.
That's not all what I had understood what it was going towards. My understanding was that why would they why would it be going out to the Democrats?
Not towards Democrats, but people who've been investigated by Democrats.
Yes, that's what I heard. Okay, the January 6 people.
Like any Democrats.
Okay, the thing is, I had seen listed specifically was that it was to recompensate the January 6 people who had gotten tracked down or been who were investigated and who had been gone after by, I guess, Democrats, if you want to put it. I don't think it was specifically. I mean, it was the government at the time that went after them. But that was my understanding, is that the money was going towards them as recompensation for how the previous government went after them. It was recompensation. I imagine that it wasn't. I'm guessing it was all of them, but I imagine especially those who had been in prison and stuff like that he released, because it was kind of like a way of recompensating them for all the trouble that had happened. That was how I took it, because he was upset and also felt bad about it. Or he has been upset and also felt bad about how they were treated. So this is a way of this is a nice gesture towards them, of like I would see it almost as like, not necessarily an apology like of his own, but it's like, here's for the troubles that you had for all those years.
But then you would have to go for every other person who's been ever pardoned by a president.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if you create a fund like that for all those who are pardoned by the president.
Specifically for January 6th is what I was saying.
Yeah. But for it, even so, people have been going like, where is this money going towards for those groups? Is it going more for those who were there more, you would say, peacefully, or is it going towards the people who were afterwards had criminal stuff happen, that they did criminal acts afterwards?
Mm-hmm. You're referring to going to the Capitol?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was some people who were saying that you had people who committed other crimes and were trying to bribe people with saying, like, I'm about to get a bunch of money, like, don't like do this, keep quiet.
You lost me there.
So people who got the pardon,
okay,
were being convicted of another crime.
Okay.
And they were saying,
involved with the same situation?
Not January 6th.
Okay, gotcha.
The crime does not involve January 6th,
gotcha. Okay.
but they were, afterwards they did different crimes.
Yeah, okay.
And they're trying
to... Okay, got it. Okay.
Saying that person was trying to use, saying money that he was going to get for compensation.
For
January 6th, to pay off people, and that to keep like investigations and their criminal things hush hush, because they were going to get money.
Interesting. That he was trying to utilize that money to help keep things quiet for wait, what?
So
that doesn't sound right. I misunderstood that.
Say I'm having to describe different things that happen, just so that YouTube does not, or any other platforms, cancel the episode or turn it off. So I'm using different analogies with different crimes. So he goes over and he kidnaps somebody.
A person that...
for the part of January 6th, they go over, kidnap somebody.
Okay.
And the person has a chance to tell authorities.
Okay.
But the person says, I'll pay you $10 million to be quiet, don't tell anybody. And I'm going to get this $10 million later on, because I was part of January 6th. as compensation. He's like, I have $10 million coming in. So don't
Because
say
of what Trump just did,
or
or
before that.
before that? Okay.
And with that, he has with that that he's trying to like pay off people from his investigation with money he doesn't have but says he's going to have because of the Trump administration. And this suddenly pops up.
And this,
There's been a request to make sure that he doesn't get it.
that he doesn't get the money?
That person doesn't get the money.
Request by who?
Senators.
Okay.
There was an investigation of that deal.
Okay.
Of it. But to be like the people that 1.776 billion that is supposed to go to that, but it's also there's no tracking of where the money goes. So you could have up to $500 million going to January Sixers.
Right.
Which you also have, that means you have around $1 billion that can be used anywhere that has no tracking whatsoever, no oversight. No person can go with a budget to look at it.
So they actually put in it that they don't want it to be tracked?
They have it that it can be tracked, but like they have the discernment to release that data.
So it's tracked, but not necessarily transparent.
What?
So it's tracked, but not necessarily transparent.
Yeah, they can say this is private information. We can't share it, and like supposedly like Congress subpoenas can't get it.
Well, that would sound sketchy.
Yeah. You have 5 people appointed by Trump that will decide where the money goes. And so can't really, they are tracking it, but they can't let anybody, there's nothing really that forces them to say who got it, even in a background check.
Right. And so you're saying that the reason why they would agree to it is because both sides work for Trump and are basically buddies with Trump.
Buddies with Trump. And so they can create something that's untrackable in the sense of $1.776 billion that can't be, you say it's tracked, but you can't figure out who it's going to. It's like, you can be like, oh, there's a transfer, but both names are blacked out.
Right. I would say, yes, that all sounds sketchy. Though I would say while that does all sound sketchy, at the same time, there's a bias here.
Yeah, I know.
So it's not like I'm dismissing. I'd be curious what another side would say about. I wasn't familiar with all that stuff. I hadn't heard that. I don't think anything I have listened to has talked about that. The whole lawsuit aspect. They might have briefly mentioned it. I'm not really sure. I primarily got the information from are you familiar with the app called Ground News?
I've heard, Ground News.
I got when I looked it up, I got the summaries from that, and so that's how I knew the little bit that I did about just the fact that he sued them, and this is the deal that they came to. I didn't hear anything about the or I take that back. I didn't hear that was necessarily a part of the deal, but that. Well, I guess I did hear something along the lines of that they could no longer do investigations about him. but that also, the only reason why that made sense to me, that would be the case, because they've constantly been trying to do that kind of stuff. And it's along the lines of why I said before, like it's almost like the tiring aspect of, is Obama actually a U.S. citizen? Like check his birth certificate, that type of thing. That's what it reminded me of. It was like you're going after this, like they went after that, and people got tired of that. And so I'm not surprised that he would try and stop them just because he'd be tired of it. Not necessarily that. I mean, honestly, it didn't necessarily make any sense to me, just because would you have anything to hide? So I mean, why stop people from looking at your stuff if you don't have anything to hide? It's like I could see you just being like, I'm tired of this. Let's just look at it, so you can stop talking. I mean, aside from the fact that you could easily be dealing with people who don't like him, who report spinning stuff in a bad way or in a negative way about him. I can see that, but but yeah, that's the main thing I guess I would say to that, is that all does sound sketchy. It's just that I also know that you tend to have a bad taste for him in your mouth, and so I'd also be curious to see what people who like him, but also try to also, not saying that you don't, but also try to be balanced about it, seeing what they would have to say about that, seeing if they could see a different reason behind this makes sense. But based off of what you're saying, a lot of that does sound sketchy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's him suing himself. I mean, I get the reasoning behind why you would say that. I guess the other way I see that is that it's not like presidents haven't had to fight with other aspects of their government. So in that way, it's like you're fighting with yourself. So I mean, if you want to go that route, so it's not to me inconceivable that he would be suing some aspect of the government that he's attached to, especially if they're not listening.
Yeah, I would go for it with the part that you're saying, like he's getting tired of it, and there's the presumption of like innocence there. But I would say earlier on I did have it like more, would you say, a better perspective of Trump. But for me is a collection of just things that are like, hey, this is sketchy, this is sketchy, this is arrogant, this is selfish, this is corrupt, that it's at a level that's like what looked sort of innocent at first, that you could make it, could say it is. And then people who've known him are like, this is what has happened before. On the part of the IRS, from what I've seen of tax documents from it, it is not that he is honest in his tax documents. It is that he is dishonest in his tax documents. That you have to pay the amount that you didn't owe at that time. And that normally happens if you're like a millionaire or billionaire or very rich, you get those sort of audits happen every 7 years. It's supposed to be the idea that if you do audit them every year, they'll just clean up their loopholes better.
Right.
But if you do it like every 6 to 7 years, you will, they don't have time to hide up all those loopholes.
Right. Okay.
And for some of them, like you can see that he's had to pay back on other ones of like that he didn't disclose fully what he was doing. And other ones which of an area that I've more, I think, of an expertise with mapping is that there was the investigation of his property in New York City.
Yeah, that became big news.
Yeah, where the evaluation of his property would be something that like a surveyor, JS geology, or a person who deals in real estate would know the information put on there is a flagrant lie, which is the square footage of a structure.
Right.
When you look at it, you can be like a few square feet off. That happens. But for it to put down that the value of that your square footage is by the triple amount off, that is more of a deliberation that you have to do to get it triple the wrong size. That is not like a percentage error. And so for it, the part was that he used the wrong information with a deliberation to get more favorable loans. So that is one for taxation. It's wrong for the state of New York to do that. And one for loans is that is a big lie right there.
Right. Yeah. That came up, and I mean, I heard conflicting stuff with that. Some of the stuff I had heard was that well, there was no doubt that he did that. He didn't even deny he did that. But the distinction he made was that, according to him, that he had actually, what do you call it? He gave permission, or he almost like encouraged some auditors or property, whatever, people who would go check that. He encouraged them to go and do that if they wanted to. And I think according to him, they opted out of not concerning over it. And so, yeah, it was not accurate, but it wasn't like he was intentionally trying to hide anything. That was the explanation behind him saying that he had actually said, he said that auditors could take a look at it, see what they thought, and people just decided not to bother with it. That's not. I think that what they were saying was that over there, I guess either that they saw him as good for the money, so they didn't really concern over it, or that they tended to not concern over that stuff too much. And that was the explanation that was given in that sense. But there's also obviously people who disagreed.
Yeah, I've heard for that it was more of a good faith
aspect.
Along that he was a real estate agent, that he should, in good faith, be telling them.
I didn't hear of it like that. I heard it more as, well, I guess the good faith had more to do with they believed that he was good for the money, in the sense of that he could make the profit that he was saying.
Yeah, I was hearing for good faith that he would properly do the investigation himself and had accurately got the report to them. That's so that he was telling the truth because of what his job title was.
Right.
Bending to his expertise.
Right.
And then coming into it that his expertise lied for it there.
So it wasn't the type of thing where he didn't know what to do. He just did and chose not to do it. He chose to utilize their trust.
Yes.
Which, no, I wouldn't say it's good. It's, I mean, granted, it's similar to, because I think in his first term, or like for the election aspect of his first term, that Hillary Clinton even mentioned that he doesn't pay his taxes or whatever, like he evades certain things. And, his argument was that that's what makes him smart. And then, what was it? Essentially saying that all she would have to do is, change the laws, and that kind of thing would change, but that she wouldn't change the laws. because other people benefit, all her people benefit from that. So basically, he was saying that he was trying to prove that the system was rigged, or trying to say, I know the system is rigged, type of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, not saying that's a right thing to do, obviously, but that does seem to fit his personality of utilizing stuff. Now, granted, I mean, that would definitely fall under a question of character. I mean, granted, there's not really been a question of does he have good character. It has not really been. I don't think anyone has suggested that he's someone who you could trust with certain people.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone has suggested that. Like, no, we wouldn't just. But I mean, people have talked about him in a positive sense, like people that he's known, people he's worked with. But it's not like everyone has. It's not like he's someone that you. For one, because there is that, depending on how you utilize it, there is a negative aspect to a businessman, and it seems like he tends to lean more in that way of what do you call it, of takes advantage of situations if he can, including illegal and whatnot. And so, and that does seem to be how he has done stuff.
Yeah.
And it's almost like basically he's taking advantage of certain laws. Certain laws are screwy, but they're there, so he's going to utilize them. That's my understanding of how he's handled things.
Yeah. And for that, I think, as you mentioned earlier, like there are the laws and all that that people use, and people go like it's smart. But part goes like, should we actually stop calling it smart and just say that it's wrong? I've heard kind of those sort of ideas recently of like, if we, as Christians, we shouldn't praise those people who are looking to find ways to pay less taxes. Is a way to be like, we should be people. Don't say those are smart, but say that they're not actually obeying the law.
I guess it depends on how it depends on how you're going about it. You can do it if you're doing it in an illegal sense, then yes. But at the same time, because the other argument is that the law, that whenever you're giving your taxes, there's a number of times where it's also funding things that you would call legal yourself.
Yeah, but if we look at Christians, where Jesus says, "Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's," it's not making sort of the distinction right there. It's that we should pay our taxes, and then we should then look to change the laws. But for it, as we have laws that we don't agree with, that we should still pay taxes.
It's not. Yeah, there's no arguing whether you pay taxes. It's a question of how much you're paying. Because I mean, you can always pay more than you should, but why pay more than you should when you're paying whenever there's a decent chance that at least some of your money is going to evil things. So instead, you would actually dish out as little as you should. So that way, at least, even though it's not good, you're not giving as much to those evil things because you can't stop where those things are going.
But if you're still supposed to pay taxes for it, you should pay the full amount that you're supposed to pay. If you go always for paying the minimal amount that you can, looking through loopholes that in some cases that you can, if you're richer enough that you can make, you're not really paying taxes, you're gaming the system to make sure that you don't pay fair share of taxes.
Well, it doesn't say pay. It doesn't even argue that. It just says pay unto Caesar what is his. So as long as you're giving it to him within the laws that are there, you're paying to him what is his. So if you find ways to be able to pay less, it's not like I wouldn't say that you're actually even disobeying what God says, or specifically what Jesus said, because he didn't say, make sure you pay the full amount. It's like pay what to him what it says. If they have put ways in there where you can pay less, you're not actually breaking what he said by paying less. Because he doesn't make that distinction. He just paid to them what is theirs.
But I would also say Jesus has made distinctions of how you've done it. Like if you hate your brother, you have murdered him.
That is a distinction.
Yeah, that is for us to go into our thoughts and our application of how we do stuff as well. So that is for it the steps. Sorry, lost train of thought. That's how, like, how you actually do it is key, because like how Jesus was calling out Pharisees of how they were doing stuff, of like, hey, you're completing the task, but you're doing all this stuff that puts it half-heartedly. Like you're what's on the outside, you're washing the rim of the bowl, but not the inside. With that's like the idea of like you can do the actions, but what you're doing on the backside is not fully what you should be doing. Are you, for the most part, you would say for the average person, probably it's not doing that. But for other people, it's like, hey, I don't want to pay taxes because I don't want to fund this sort of thing. So I'm not going to pay taxes, or I'm going to use some numbers switch around to hide what I did with this this area of my business or what I'm doing. So, sorry, everybody, it keeps wanting to do that. So, for that part of like how you do it is actually important, as well as the end goal.
Right. And how exactly was it whenever Jesus actually did pay taxes? What does it say about that?
Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and give unto God what is God's.
Right, but whenever he actually did it, what did he do?
He shelled like a coin.
Yeah. No.
When he paid taxes,
when he actually paid it.
He told Peter, "Go fish. Take one for you, one for me."
Right.
So are we going with that? He paid it.
He did.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying you don't pay it.
Yeah.
It would be wrong for you not to pay taxes. I'm agreeing with that. There's a distinction of how much you pay. If it is possible to pay less, I don't think that that's actually wrong. Especially if you're utilizing that money for something good, whenever they're probably utilizing that money for something evil. You still have to give to them what is theirs. Just because, obviously, because part of the thing was that they didn't have the understanding that, granted, Caesar was like overbearing from what I understand, but he was also, I think he was at very least morally questionable. And so, and he did still say, okay, you pay him, but that didn't necessarily mean that they don't get into how little or how much you pay. They just say you pay. And so if you could, pay less to something that's evil, that would be preferable. That would be better. And because of how they've handled money in the past, it's not hard to see that they're utilizing your money for stuff that God would hate. And so I wouldn't see an issue with you having to pay as little as possible. Not that you wouldn't pay any, because that would be a problem in and of itself. But you still, try to do what you still try to. I don't know that you put every effort, all your effort you can, but just like put. If you don't have to worry about paying this much, then don't pay this much.
I just want, because I've had family members be like, I don't want to pay the Trump administration because I don't believe what they're doing is right. I'm like,
right.
The Bible says we got.
I mean, you had to do it. With Biden, we had to. For those who don't like Biden, you still had to pay the taxes. You can't get away from that. And I mean, you're supposed to. It's to me, it is a question of as long as you're not doing it illegally, there's no reason to. If you can get away with tax credits and stuff like that, tax deductions, that there's no reason to concern with that. Like for instance, there's this one guy at work who, not that I did it, but he said it's something he did before I guess he had kids before he had kids, and something someone encouraged me to do was to not all my taxes, but as an employee, put down I had a couple kids. And the idea behind that, had to do with I would get more money throughout the year on that. As long as when it came to tax time, I said I don't have any kids. Then it was the type of thing where I wouldn't get as much money back on my taxes, on my tax return, but also the government didn't get as much of my money. And so there is that element of it being kind of odd because it sounds dishonest. Now, from my understanding, it's not something that is an illegal thing to do. It's just something that there's technicalities within our paper of how the money stuff works, and so it's the type of thing where it's not an illegal act to do, but you're finding a way to give them less money by claiming something that isn't accurate as an employee, but then making sure you're accurate on your tax return. And so stuff along those lines, I would say that's at best a gray area, just because you are still technically lying. So I'm like, I don't know how you get around that. But I mean, I get that on paper it doesn't mean anything besides here's just a workaround. But at the same time, you're still saying you have kids when you don't. So it's like there's this lying aspect to it. Like, I don't know what to think of this. So I mean, there have been times where it would have been nice to have that extra money, but I was like, I don't know. And usually, from my understanding, once you were, the sweet spot was essentially that you might get on your tax return, you might get $50 to $200 back at the end of the year. And so most of that stuff just came to you because it wasn't like you're getting all the money, but you also weren't giving all the money. So it was just like a nice in between type of thing. And they're always still going to get most of your taxes. It's just a way for them to get less of it. But you're still having to say on there that you didn't have any kids for a period of time for most of the year. So I'm like, I don't know. This is most of that. Whatever you say with a tax return doesn't sound bad, but the fact that you're still lying about that you have kids, like I don't know. So that is one of those ways, aside from the actual lying aspect, that I would see is if you can find, if there's a way for you to tax deductions and stuff like that they give, there's no reason not to utilize that to keep more of your money or get more of your money back.
I'm going more for moving your money around so that it's hard to track it fully. There's different
I would see a problem there.
For tax deductions, I'm like, I don't have a problem with that. It's more of you're moving your money around so it can't be tracked. That's the problem I have of if we do it this way, I can put the money in a charity, but I can still do control of what that charity does. I see what
you're talking about.
I found an interesting sort of discussion by somebody of how to put money into certain forms of charity that allow you to still use the money, but it's said to be in a charity.
Yeah, I got okay.
It's
technically for nonprofit, but you have control of where that nonprofit spends its money, so it's almost like your own wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah. It's like, is it really a nonprofit?
No, that's not what I was referring to.
No, I was not referring to that. I was like, deductions, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But it's moving money around.
Right. Yeah. I mean, is that loophole? Yes. Is that an appropriate loophole? No.
No.
You're not supposed to lie. It's supposed to lie to get the money back.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, if Trump has done that, that's obviously a problem. And
I don't
Do
think
I-
I've seen or heard of millionaire or billionaire not
yeah, I
doing
would
that.
say, do I believe that he would have? Sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean,
Yeah. I don't hold anybody to like a moral gray standard. Be like, I can agree with you doing some stuff, but I do have to hold it back against you for doing that. It's like,
yeah.
but that's a part of like doing that sort of thing of like, we
Now-
praise them for being smart, but you might just be doing stuff wrong. Bad.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess that way, the way I would put it, it would actually be taking both those stands. He was smart, and then how he did things, evil.
Smart how you did evil. Yeah. I think that should be it for today.
That note on Trump bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you all for watching and listening to this podcast. Hopefully you'll join us next time. Give a like and a subscribe so that you know the next time we're on, and this helps it better in the algorithm. And if you want to leave a comment of what we should discuss, you can do that as well. And most importantly about following, liking, subscribing is that we have pets to feed and they are starving. With that, talk to you later.
What is about lying?